Let me tell you something. We all have moments when we look back on things we've said and think, why in the world did I say that? The truth is, words are powerful. Words have the power to build bridges, and they have the power to tear them down. At this stage in your life, there are things you've said to your family that you regret, things you wish you could take back. But let's face it, no one is perfect. We're all on this journey trying to figure it out. And sometimes we say things in moments of frustration, anger, or vulnerability. But here's the key. You don't have to let your past mistakes define your future. So let me help you shift your perspective today. There are certain things, certain conversations that quite frankly should remain private. And I'm not just talking about holding back a personal secret or two. I'm talking about the energy you put into conversations that drain you, that hold you back, and that create unnecessary tension in your relationships. You see, as you get older, you start realizing that not everything needs to be said, and not everyone needs to hear it. The first thing you need to keep to yourself is your inner fears. Your fears should not be a burden to the people you love. Sure, you can confide in them, but don't let your fears overwhelm their sense of security. You don't need to transfer your worry onto others. Stand tall and own your power, because when you start to show your strength, it will empower them to show theirs. Second, your judgments about them. There will always be things about your family members you don't understand, things that drive you crazy, but you don't need to vocalize every frustration that crosses your mind. Recognize that every person is on their own path, and it's not for you to judge them. Respect their journey and focus on improving your own. The more you focus on your personal growth, the more you become a model for them to follow. Third, don't share your financial struggles. Look, money problems are real. We all face them at some point, and they're hard to talk about. But sharing every financial difficulty with your family can create unnecessary stress. The energy surrounding money can be toxic, and you don't need that negative energy affecting your relationships. Instead, focus on how you're going to change your situation. Take responsibility and work toward the solution. Fourth, your relationship problems. There's no denying that relationships are tough, but airing every little issue with your family will only invite judgment and frustration. Keep your conflicts between you and your partner. Work through it as a team. Your family doesn't need to be your sounding board every time things get tough. Fifth, your self-doubt. Let's face it, we all have moments where we question our abilities, our choices, and our worth. But here's the thing. You don't need to burden your family with your self-doubt. You are capable, you are powerful, and you are deserving of greatness. When you stand tall, even when you're unsure, you start to create a new reality. A reality where your confidence grows and your future expands. Lastly, don't share your need for approval. You don't need anyone's permission to go after your dreams. Stop looking for validation outside of yourself. You have everything you need inside of you. Your family doesn't need to constantly reassure you. You got this. Trust yourself, because when you do, you unlock the door to limitless potential. So my friend, remember this. You are stronger, wiser, and more capable than you may realize. Don't let past words or actions weigh you down. Keep your inner power, your peace, and your strength, and show the world who you really are. Words hold incredible power. They can heal, inspire, and bring people closer together, but they can also wound, alienate, and destroy. When you understand this, you begin to see that not everything needs to be said, especially when emotions are high. In relationships, particularly with family, we often speak from a place of frustration, fear, or vulnerability. In these moments, we might say things we later regret, things that don't reflect our true feelings or the deep connection we want to maintain with the people we care about. This is why it's essential to control what you say, be mindful of your energy, and remember that silence can sometimes be the most powerful response. When you're in the heat of an argument or feeling overwhelmed, it's easy to let words fly out in a rush. But think about the impact of those words. Once spoken, they cannot be taken back. You can apologize, try to explain, and even offer an explanation, but the emotional imprint remains. Family members, especially those closest to you, are the ones who are most affected by your words. They're the ones who will feel the weight of your frustration, anger, or disappointment long after the conversation ends. And even if your intention wasn't to hurt them, the emotional residue can linger for a long time. This is why learning to pause, to give yourself space before reacting, can be life-changing. When we don't pause, we're speaking from a place of reaction, and reaction is rarely rooted in clarity. We're not thinking with our highest self when we're reacting out of anger or fear. We're reacting from a place of insecurity, pain, or ego. That's why in those moments, you have to be aware of the power of silence. Silence isn't weakness, silence is strength. It's a moment to reflect, to breathe, and to regain your composure. It's the space between the impulse to speak and the wisdom to choose your words carefully. There's an old saying, think before you speak. It's simple yet profound. When you stop to consider the impact of your words before they leave your mouth, you'll find that the conversations you have with your family become much more constructive. You begin to communicate from a place of respect and understanding rather than from a place of frustration or judgment. When we speak out of emotion, it's easy to let the conversation spiral into conflict, but if we take a breath, allow ourselves time to think, we can steer the conversation in a direction that fosters connection instead of creating distance. Also, there's a hidden truth behind controlling your words. Not everything that comes to mind needs to be shared. Just because you feel something doesn't mean it needs to be verbalized. Some emotions and thoughts are better left unspoken, not because they're bad or wrong, but because they might not serve you or your relationships at the moment. For example, if you're angry, hurt, or frustrated, saying things like, you always do this, or I'm so tired of this, can make things worse. These kinds of statements don't solve the problem, they only escalate. Instead, try to express how you feel in a way that focuses on your emotions and needs rather than blaming or criticizing. This helps keep the conversation focused on resolution, not on creating more division. In addition, there's a subtle but powerful truth. When we choose our words carefully, we're also choosing our energy. Our words carry a certain energy with them. When you speak with kindness, respect, and understanding, you create an atmosphere of warmth and cooperation. But when you speak out of frustration, resentment, or anger, you introduce negativity and tension into the conversation. This is why it's crucial to be aware of how your words affect not only the person you're speaking to, but the entire environment around you. Family members are a support system, the people we should be able to lean on and trust, yet sometimes we forget that these are the same people who need our understanding and compassion. We think that because they are family, they will understand our frustrations or forgive our harsh words. But the truth is, while family may be more forgiving than others, they're still human. They still feel hurt when we lash out, and the damage done can take time to heal. In the long run, it's not just about what you say, it's about how you make the other person feel. Now imagine if you could consistently create conversations that build up rather than tear down. What if every interaction with your family left them feeling loved, heard, and valued rather than drained or hurt? The key is being mindful of how you communicate. It's about speaking with purpose and intention. This doesn't mean you have to bottle everything up or never express yourself. It simply means that before speaking, you consider the outcome. You reflect on whether the words you're about to say will bring the relationship closer or push it further apart. And lastly, don't underestimate the power of listening. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do in a conversation is not speak at all, but truly listen. Listen to what the other person is saying without judgment or interruption. When you take the time to listen deeply, you'll find that your words come out more carefully, more compassionately. You'll also learn more about the person you're speaking with, and this understanding will guide your responses. Listening creates connection, and connection breeds trust, understanding, and love. At the end of the day, what's most important is the way you make people feel. Your words are a reflection of your heart, and when you choose to speak with care and consciousness, you create an environment where love, respect, and growth can thrive. Words matter, but your energy matters more. When you control your words, you control the direction of your relationships. So choose wisely and speak with purpose. Your family deserves nothing less. Personal growth is a lifelong journey, and it's a journey that demands introspection, commitment, and resilience. So many times we get caught up in the external challenges and distractions that we forget to focus on the internal shift that needs to take place. We look for validation from the people around us, seeking reassurance that we're on the right path, that we're doing enough, or that we're worthy of success. But the truth is, external validation is a fleeting source of strength. The real power comes from within, from cultivating a mindset of self-belief and growth. When you start to shift your focus from seeking approval to improving yourself, everything changes. You stop relying on the opinions of others to define your worth. You stop questioning your abilities based on external judgments. Instead, you tap into your own potential, your own inner wisdom. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process, one that requires patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to challenge old thought patterns. But once you begin this journey, you'll notice that your confidence grows, your resilience strengthens, and your sense of empowerment deepens. So many of us spend too much time worrying about what others think. We shape our actions, decisions, and even our identities around the expectations of family, friends, and society. But the truth is, when we do this, we lose sight of who we truly are. We begin to compromise our authentic selves for the sake of fitting in or gaining approval. And while it might feel safe or comfortable in the short term, it leaves us feeling disconnected from our own truth. Deep down, we know that we're not living up to our full potential. We know that we're not being true to ourselves. And that dissonance creates a sense of unease, a feeling that something is missing. When you choose to focus on your personal growth, you make the decision to reconnect with your true self. You begin to question old beliefs that no longer serve you, to challenge fears that hold you back, and to break free from the limitations you've imposed on yourself. This journey isn't easy, and there will be setbacks along the way. But the more you commit to growth, the more you'll find that you have the strength to overcome any obstacle in your path. A critical part of personal growth is the ability to embrace discomfort. Growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone. It happens when you step outside of what's familiar, when you push yourself to try new things, and when you confront your fears head on. It's through discomfort that we learn new skills, gain new perspectives, and build resilience. And while the process can be challenging, it's also incredibly rewarding. When you face discomfort and come out stronger on the other side, you build confidence in your ability to navigate life's challenges. You start to trust yourself more, knowing that you have the capacity to handle whatever comes your way. But embracing discomfort doesn't mean ignoring your feelings or pretending that things are easy. It means acknowledging your fears, your doubts, and your vulnerabilities and choosing to move forward in spite of them. It's about taking imperfect action, knowing that failure isn't the end, but a part of the process. Failure is simply feedback. It's a lesson that brings you closer to success, a sign that you're pushing beyond your limits and expanding your capabilities. As you continue to grow, you'll also begin to recognize that growth isn't just about achieving external success. It's about developing a deeper understanding of who you are, what you want, and what you stand for. It's about living with intention, aligning your actions with your values, and being true to your own beliefs. Personal growth is not a destination. It's a journey that unfolds over time. It's a process of continually learning, evolving, and becoming the best version of yourself. Another crucial aspect of personal growth is developing emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions, as well as the ability to empathize with others. When you focus on growing emotionally, you improve your relationships, communication, and ability to navigate difficult situations. Emotional intelligence allows you to be more self-awareness, more compassionate, and more resilient in the face of challenges. It helps you manage stress, overcome obstacles, and build stronger, more meaningful connections with others. Part of emotional growth also involves learning how to let go of past wounds and resentments. Holding on to old grudges, past mistakes, or negative experiences keeps you stuck in the past. It prevents you from moving forward and limits your potential. When you choose to let go of these emotional burdens, you create space for new experiences, new relationships, and new opportunities. Letting go is an act of liberation. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of the past and allowing yourself to move forward with a clean slate. Personal growth also requires a mindset shift. Often we view challenges as obstacles to avoid or problems to solve. But when you adopt a growth mindset, you see challenges as opportunities for learning and development. You begin to embrace the process of growth, understanding that failure is not something to fear, but something to learn from. A growth mindset helps you maintain resilience in the face of adversity. It keeps you focused on solutions rather than problems and empowers you to take ownership of your journey. When you start to embrace growth as a way of life, everything changes. Your sense of self-worth no longer depends on the approval of others. Your confidence is rooted in your own abilities, your own resilience, and your own potential. You become less concerned with external validation and more focused on your internal growth. This shift not only changes how you view yourself, but also how you interact with the world. You become more authentic, more empowered, and more in control of your own destiny. The more you commit to personal growth, the more you realize that your future is limitless and the only person standing in your way is yourself. In every relationship, boundaries are essential. Boundaries are the invisible lines that define where one person ends and another begins. They serve as a guide to what's acceptable and what's not, creating a healthy space where both individuals can thrive while maintaining their unique sense of self. When it comes to relationships with family, however, boundaries can become murky. We often assume that because we are family, we are exempt from setting clear limits, but this couldn't be further from the truth. Setting boundaries with family is not about distancing yourself from them. Rather, it's about protecting your emotional well-being and fostering stronger, more authentic connections. One of the most important things to realize is that not every issue needs to be aired out. There's this tendency to share every detail of our lives with those closest to us. We talk about our work struggles, our relationship problems, and our financial issues, often seeking validation, sympathy, or just a listening ear. However, not all aspects of your life need to be shared, and doing so can inadvertently create unnecessary tension or strain. When you constantly share your challenges, especially without boundaries, you can create an environment where people feel compelled to offer unsolicited advice, express concern, or even criticize your decisions. While they may mean well, this can lead to feelings of resentment, overwhelm, or misunderstanding. For example, let's talk about financial difficulties. Money is one of those topics that can quickly spiral into stress and emotional turmoil. You may find yourself in a tight spot financially, but sharing every detail with family members can lead to unnecessary worry or judgment. They may try to help or offer their opinion, but often what you really need is a solution, not a round of unsolicited advice or worse, pity. In these situations, it's often more beneficial to keep your financial struggles to yourself and seek practical solutions in private. When you do decide to share, be strategic. Share when you feel it's necessary and do so in a way that doesn't create panic or put undue pressure on anyone. Family doesn't need to be burdened with the stress of your finances, especially when they're not in a position to offer practical help. The same concept applies to relationship problems. Relationships are complex and conflicts are a natural part of any partnership. But airing out every disagreement or frustration with family members can do more harm than good. Family members, in their desire to help, may start to pick sides, offering advice based on limited knowledge of the situation. They may end up exacerbating the issue, making it harder to repair the relationship. Instead of turning to family for every issue, consider addressing the matter with your partner directly. Relationships require communication between the two people involved, and seeking validation from others can cloud your judgment and create unnecessary tension. Family should not be the first line of defense when it comes to working through relationship problems. Another crucial aspect of boundaries is protecting your emotional energy. Family members, especially those we're closest to, have a unique ability to trigger us. They know us deeply, which means they also know how to push our buttons. Sometimes they may unintentionally cross boundaries, or they may have deeply ingrained patterns of behavior that are unhealthy. For instance, a parent might criticize you in a way that brings up old wounds, or a sibling might make a remark that feels hurtful. These situations can be emotionally draining, and it's essential to set clear boundaries around how much of that you're willing to tolerate. You don't need to absorb the negative energy they bring into the conversation. It's okay to assertively let them know when their words or actions are crossing a line and impacting your emotional well-being. You have the right to protect your peace and establish boundaries that keep you emotionally safe. But setting boundaries with family isn't just about protecting your emotional health. It's also about asserting your personal autonomy, your time, your space, your decisions. These are all aspects of your life that belong to you. And while family may have the best intentions, it's essential to recognize when their involvement is overstepping. For instance, a well-meaning parent may want to control where you live, what career path you follow, or whom you date. While their advice is important, you are the one who ultimately has to live with the consequences of your decisions. It's important to communicate your desires and choices with confidence, even if they don't align with what others expect of you. Setting these boundaries ensures that you are the one steering your own ship, not someone else. Additionally, it's important to remember that boundaries aren't static. They evolve over time. As you change and grow, so too should your boundaries. What may have been acceptable in the past might not work anymore, and that's perfectly okay. For example, you might have been more open about sharing your emotions with family members in the past, but as you've grown, you might realize that it's healthier for you to keep certain emotions to yourself. Or perhaps you've reached a point where you no longer want to engage in family dynamics that feel toxic or unproductive. That's part of your growth process, and it's essential to communicate these changes with your family in a way that is respectful yet firm. Family dynamics can sometimes make it feel like setting boundaries is a betrayal, especially if those boundaries are new or unexpected. You may fear that your family will be upset or that they'll misunderstand your intentions. But setting boundaries is not about rejecting them. It's about creating a healthier, more respectful relationship where both parties can thrive. Healthy boundaries allow for deeper trust, better communication, and stronger connections. They empower you to show up as your authentic self without feeling emotionally depleted or overwhelmed. One of the most empowering aspects of setting boundaries is realizing that you have the power to decide what you tolerate and what you don't. This is a fundamental part of taking control of your life and ensuring that your relationships with family are both respectful and nurturing. It's not always easy, but it's necessary for your own well-being. The more you practice setting and maintaining boundaries, the easier it becomes. And over time, you'll notice that your relationships with family members will improve because they will see you as someone who respects themselves and their own needs, and they will start to respect those boundaries as well. Boundaries are not walls. They are bridges to healthier, more authentic relationships. When you honor your boundaries, you invite others to do the same. And in doing so, you create a space where both you and your family can grow, evolve, and connect without feeling overwhelmed, resentful, or misunderstood. Too often, we seek approval from others to validate our choices and our identity. We look for external reassurance to confirm that we're on the right path, that our decisions are wise, and that we are worthy of success. But here's the harsh truth. Approval from others is a fleeting source of strength. The constant need for external validation keeps you tethered to the opinions of others, making you more susceptible to their judgments and less in control of your own life. It's time to stop seeking permission from anyone to live the life you desire and to start trusting in yourself. When you constantly seek approval, you put your self-worth in the hands of others. Your sense of value becomes contingent on how others perceive you. One moment, you might feel confident and validated when someone agrees with your decisions or praises your achievements. But the next moment, when someone questions you or disapproves of your choices, your confidence plummets. This creates a cycle of dependence on others, where your mood and sense of worth fluctuate based on external input. This cycle can leave you feeling disempowered, insecure, and uncertain about your abilities. You start to doubt yourself because you've conditioned your mind to believe that your worth is defined by others' approval. The truth is, when you seek validation externally, you stop listening to your inner voice. You start second-guessing your intuition, your passions, and your desires. Your decisions are no longer based on what feels right for you, but on what others think is right. This disconnection from your authentic self is not only exhausting, but also stifles your potential. You might find yourself living a life that doesn't fully resonate with who you are, chasing goals and ambitions that are based on what others expect of you rather than what you genuinely want. When you stop seeking approval and start trusting yourself, everything changes. You begin to make decisions based on your own values, needs, and desires. Your life becomes a reflection of your true self, not a reaction to the opinions of others. This shift is empowering because it places you back in control of your life. You no longer need permission to go after your dreams. You understand that you are worthy of pursuing the things that excite and fulfill you, regardless of what others think. Your confidence comes from within, not from external validation. Self-trust is the foundation of this change. Trusting yourself means having confidence in your own abilities, judgment, and decisions. It means knowing that even when things don't go as planned, you can learn from the experience and keep moving forward. It's about believing in your own resilience and knowing that you have the strength to handle whatever comes your way. When you trust yourself, you stop relying on others to tell you what's best for you. Instead, you rely on your own inner wisdom and intuition to guide your choices. But how do you begin to build this self-trust? First, it requires taking ownership of your life. Stop waiting for permission. Start taking action toward your goals. Even if you're not sure you have everything figured out, trust that you will learn along the way. This means stepping outside of your comfort zone, embracing risks, and confronting fears. Every time you push past your limitations, you reinforce the belief that you are capable. Even if you stumble, remember that failure is not a reflection of your worth. It's simply part of the journey. Second, it means letting go of the need for perfection. Many of us seek approval because we fear judgment. We think that if we can present ourselves as flawless or always doing the right thing, others will accept us. But perfection is an illusion. No one is perfect, and striving for perfection often leads to procrastination and self-doubt. Instead, embrace the idea that progress is more important than perfection. Take action, make mistakes, learn, and grow. As you do, you'll see that you don't need to have everything figured out to be worthy of respect or success. You are worthy because you're human and you are continuously evolving. Third, it's essential to stop comparing yourself to others. Comparison is one of the most destructive habits when it comes to self-worth. When you constantly measure your progress against others, you can easily feel inadequate. Everyone has their own path, their own journey, and their own timeline. Just because someone else seems to be ahead or doing better doesn't mean you're behind. Your journey is uniquely yours, and it's essential to honor that. Celebrate your achievements, no matter how small they seem, because they are a reflection of your growth and effort. Another key to letting go of seeking approval is learning to say no. Too often we say yes to things that don't align with our values or desires simply because we don't want to disappoint others. We overcommit ourselves and stretch ourselves thin in an attempt to gain approval or avoid conflict. But constantly saying yes to others at the expense of your own well-being leaves you feeling depleted, resentful, and disconnected from yourself. Learn to set boundaries and say no when something doesn't serve you. Saying no is an act of self-respect. It's acknowledging that your time, energy, and happiness are just as important as anyone else's. Once you stop seeking approval from others, you create the space to truly discover who you are. You begin to understand your own desires, passions, and goals without the influence of external expectations. You start to realize that your self-worth doesn't depend on anyone else's opinion. You are enough as you are. This is the ultimate freedom. The freedom to pursue your dreams, make mistakes, and grow without constantly measuring yourself against the expectations of others. When you embrace this mindset, you begin to attract the right people into your life, people who support you, respect you, and appreciate you for who you truly are. You'll no longer feel the need to perform or prove yourself to anyone. Instead, you'll feel empowered to live authentically, making choices that align with your true self. The more you trust yourself, the more others will trust you too. Self-trust is magnetic. It invites the right opportunities, the right people, and the right experiences into your life. Ultimately, the only approval you need is your own. When you trust yourself, you free yourself from the limitations of seeking validation from others. You become your own greatest supporter, and from that place of self-assurance, you can accomplish anything. Trust in your abilities, trust in your journey, and trust that you are worthy of everything you desire. You don't need permission to live the life you want. The power to create that life has always been within you. It's time to take the reins and own your destiny. At the heart of this journey lies a profound truth. The power to shape your life, your relationships, and your future is in your hands. When you learn to control your words, protect your emotional energy, set healthy boundaries, and trust yourself, you unlock the true potential of who you are. Each of these practices, whether it's speaking with intention, growing as an individual, respecting your own space, or believing in your own abilities, creates a foundation of self-respect, confidence, and inner strength. Remember, every challenge and every relationship is an opportunity for growth. The key to living a fulfilled life doesn't lie in external validation or approval, but in your ability to stay true to yourself, to communicate with love and care, and to take ownership of your journey. You hold the power to create the life you desire, regardless of what others think or expect. Your decisions, your boundaries, and your self-trust are what will guide you through every phase of life. So step forward with confidence. Remember that the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself.